for something short term, I think that we really, really need to find a way to get testing more accessible, make testing more accessible, I mean. And we have been talking about this since 2020, and we mentioned it again in 2021, and it's 2022, and we're still talking about the same thing, right? But then our testing capacity is definitely increased, but then you can't say the same for access. Um, Tests are still so expensive here in the country. And now there's a whole other market, right? Antigen tests. So they're also very, very expensive. So really, testing is one thing that we still need to improve on. I would also say that one of the things we should do in the short term is really sit down, or um I really want to hear the government talk about how we're going to improve ventilation, what kind of investments we're going to be making, and let's say in our public schools, so that so that the kids can go back to school. um their education is doesn't have to be interrupted again. It's already been disrupted in the last 2 years, so it's also another immediate thing we have to do. I would also um and this one, we're in the process of kind of we're on the way there, but it's still really slow, I would say. Is how we're monitoring our health system. So right now it's really still on beds and on ventilators, but then we have learned by now, of course, that the beds need people to keep functioning. So I think it would be interesting to, not interesting, but really important that we add our health workers. So we have to figure out a way to measure how many of our health workers are able to still work to make sure those beds are functioning. And I think long term, well, of course, fourth being, I mean, I will say it, even if it's obvious, vaccination needs to really be more widespread outside of NCR. So NCR is the story in NCR is, yes, there are so many cases, and hospitalizations are definitely increasing because of just the sheer number of infections that we're seeing. But vaccines are really helping us here, and we need to be able to say the same for other regions as well.